Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high level game of StarCraft 2. Today we have in the bottom right as our red Protoss player playing for Team Root, it's DNS. And in the top left as our yellow Terran, it's going to be Caspax. Of course this is just Cas, except he changed his name to Caspax recently, playing for Team Star. Ukrainian Terran player opening up with a quick Reaper here, and as this is a single gas, we are expecting a command center to be the natural follow-up. There's no scout coming out of Cast, which is quite standard for Cast. Cast doesn't scout all the time. He scouts every now and then when he feels like it. Does not require that information in order to make the good decisions. At least that's what he believes. Of course, does make him vulnerable for some early game shenanigans. Maybe a zealot across the map. Like a 12 pylon 13 gate type of deal, you know, really fast adept. All of these things are possible, but that's not exactly what DNS is opening with. DNS decided to open up with, I think this was a Nexus before core. Oh yes, it was. This core finished at 209, and that means that this adept is 9 seconds later than it would have been had he opened up with core before Nexus. It does, however, allow him to get slightly more workers early on and a lot quicker gas in the main base, as well as quicker saturation of the natural. Now that is annoying for Cast, because Cast sees this like, oh, well, I wish I could have done something about that, but now it's too late because I didn't scout. Sometimes you could put a bunker behind a mineral line to be a little bit annoying, deny a bit of mining. The Reaper is going to remain alive for now. Cast believes that he can go in one more time, and I share that belief with him. Does he get the scout? No. Wow, I'm surprised he did not end up going for the scout. Okay, here we go. Just kind of going around. Will spot the Stargate right now and hopefully also gets away with that. Reaper does have a single Marine at home already. Cancels the Hellion as a result of this scout and instead throws down a tech lab. The question of course is going to be, will this be a tech lab for the barracks or a tech lab for the factory? Both options are somewhat viable here. Could want to open up with a Cyclone, but of course a mine defense and a quick stim is also a possibility. No, it's going to be that Cyclone forgets to lift the depot, and that is kind of painful here for Cas. As a result, this adept will enter the main base, and it also gets to leave. So, open door policy here in Cas's main base. It's nice for DNS, a lot less nice for Cas, who's going to probably end up losing, well, one more SCV because of it. No, SCV stays alive. A little bit of mining time does get lost, though. Oracle is... I thought we saw an Oracle being built. Okay, that Oracle got cancelled after DNS spotted the tech lab on this factory, I guess. And instead we have a quick switch into a robotics facility. Okay. Sparking my curiosity in an interesting way. So, as a result of seeing a second Rex and a tech lab on a factory, DNS decides that he prefers playing Phoenix Colossi in this scenario. That is somewhat interesting, because I think against two Rex, you often don't really need those quick Colossi. I mean, it's nice to have them, but it's not really necessary. It's not like you're going to be absolutely blasted at the 5-minute mark. You need to stay on 2 base for longer. So it feels like he's economically handicapping himself for no real reason, except some added safety, I guess. Like, there really is some added safety in having that fast robotics facility, allowing yourself to stay on 2 base a little bit longer and maybe get out an immortal, fast robo bay. All of these things, of course, have some use. The question is, do they weigh up to the big benefit of having a bigger eco, a faster third base? This third base going down at 450 right now. 45 workers for DNS against the 39 that Caspax currently has. And well, the first immortal is on the way. So it feels like this is a safety immortal more so than anything else. And this Reaper will get another kill, and that will make it the 3rd kill. 2 of those being probes. I'm not quite sure what the 3rd thing is, but I do see a 3rd kill here in the kill counter. Might actually get a 4th, that would be kind of nice. It's nothing huge that this Reaper is doing here, but he does actually, he gets the scout on absolutely everything. So he's completely aware of what's kicking off right now. Completely aware. Even forces a lift and forces back the Phoenixes. Cas is going to be quite happy with that, because in that way he does not need to defend against the Phoenixes at home, can just continue on his merry way, just macroing up. It's kind of relaxing, makes the game a little less stressful for the Terran, obviously. Turret going down in the natural right now, +1 has not even started yet, 5 minutes and 50 seconds into the game. So this first push that we will see out of the Terran player will be without any major upgrades. There are 5 Phoenixes on the map. And there is a 6th Phoenix on the way. Did this observer spot that drop move out? I don't think it did. It should realize that something is missing right now. It's like, hey, this is a small army for 6 minutes. That is legitimately 5 Marines. If I were DNS, I'd be looking for drops right now, I think. I mean, it's obvious to everyone here that this is not the real army, DNS, right? It is obvious. I mean, you can disrespect someone's macro and say, well, I don't believe this guy knows how to build units, but I think even silver players have this much of an army at the 630 mark. Or maybe I'm overrating the average silver player. There's a lot of units in here. If you're not in position with Phoenix Colossi, things can get nasty really quickly. You lose 4 or 5 workers and life just sucks. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Kaz moves in position, takes out a bunch of... Where are these medeffects going? Oh, on towards the main base. So did not drop everything, and instead ends up dealing damage in 2 bases at once. At the same time, we have this, well, now relatively sizable arming moving over towards the 3rd base. Colossi are in position, but 23 workers have gone down. Absolutely a killing blow here to DNS, it feels like. Wow. Yeah, this is painful. DNS actually opting for a counterattack. I don't completely mind that. He says, hey, you sacrifice some units for this attack. That much is obvious. You're lacking a little bit in the anti-air. I can pick up a lot of units on your retreat. What happens if I just counterattack across the map? And it's a good question that I don't think we're going to see the answer to, because DNS is just kind of chilling in the middle for now. Does quickly try to get back that worker count that he is lacking. I am just not entirely sure if this is a playable game where you can just rebuild your 23 workers that you just lost and say, okay, we play from here. Sure, Kaz's 3rd base is late, and he did end up losing a couple of units. Like, his resource loss actually is bigger than that of DNS's. DNS had a good worker count this entire time. The supplies look somewhat even. I still feel like that a lot of things for DNS, there's some hidden cost to this drop that you don't really see. Because the supplies look somewhat normal. And one of these things is the fact that the infrastructure is really delayed. These 6 extra gates usually are done at like the 740, 750 mark. Now they're starting at like the 8-minute mark. This is a significant delay, and that means that we're not going to see a big boost in this army value like we usually would at this point in time. And we immediately see Kaspax kind of running away with this game. We have a slight halt in SCV production. I'm not quite sure why that is. But Kaz perhaps is gearing up for some type of 1-1 push. Couple of Vikings in there, Ghost or 2. All of this is possible, of course. Phoenix count is very large, by the way. The Phoenix is one of these units that, although very powerful in the early game and in the early stages of the mid game, the moment Ghosts come out and the Viking count reaches something that is higher than 8, these units fall off really, really quick. And it's that supply, but more importantly, well, it's not entirely that supply, it tanks for Viking shots, but you invested 900 gas into these bad boys, and they have not yet provided the returns for DNS that you would expect out of a 900 gas investment. And that is, I think, what's kind of painful here. In a way, this push that Kaz is doing here, especially without the Ghost, benefits DNS because it gives him a natural way to trade out these Phoenixes, in a way. Now, of course, this push is still going to be dealing a lot of damage as this stim in actually kills 17 workers once again, gets him in a very good position. DNS once again slightly out of position, and Kaz just pounces on that advantage, takes out a lot of workers. Now he is going to lose this entire army. He's not really macroing behind this either, I have to admit. Look at this. He's just floating 1300 minerals, or was floating 1500 minerals even. Does kill the Nexus, is up a base. There is a gateway for aggressive reinforcements here. We have a Zealot run by killing 2 workers. So let's just make up the balance sheet here. 42 workers killed by Kaz and 3 workers killed by DNS. That's funny because it feels like DNS actually invested more in units that usually kill workers, like the Phoenixes. So far, 8 Phoenixes have gone down already. Kaz, of course, can also deal damage with the medeffects, but 42 workers is really an extraordinary amount. I like the bunker here. I think it's a good call. If you know you're ahead, you have your 4th base on the way, and you just killed your opponent's natural, and he only was on 3 bases total. yeah, this is generally a good call. 2-2 on the way as well. We have more ghosts being pumped out. Ship weapons level 1 on the way. The only thing we're truly lacking is these added barracks. Barracks 6, 7 and 8, or perhaps a second starport. Now, second starport, now that the Phoenix count is so diminished, isn't necessarily something you need. It is something you can get, but it's not necessary. In this type of situation, we see players like Bian, Ryang, I want to say Bunny as well, who would just throw down these extra barracks and play a very high-paced style, continuously pushing across the map, not giving your opponent kind of space to breathe. And having very high marauder counts, relatively high ghost count, can just be super beneficial against the type of army that DNS currently is going for. And I guess at this point it isn't even so much the type of army that DNS is going for, but the fact that he has almost no army whatsoever to speak of. He has a very small army. There are different sources of splash. That's the one thing that is nice for him. He has Archons, he has Colossi, and right now he has a Disruptor, and he's trying to pump out as many as possible. You can only imagine he wants to go up to like 4 or 5 Disruptors here before the next fight in order to stand a chance. Yeah, okay, so Kaz is indeed going to be adding some of these barracks. I think this is actually the correct call. Also, yeah. No, this is absolutely the correct call. Gets 3 extra barracks. I think it's a good way to go about it here. Is going to hit a 2-2 timing as well, so just was really passive until he gets that 2-2. And hence Shockwave is not done, and really does need to wait for that 2-2 to finish. Yeah, we can say a lot of things, but that 2-2 does need to finish. And I like that rather than going up this ramp, saying, hey, I want to kill you right now, he goes for, I think, a slightly superior position here on the third. DNS is not quick enough to position his army over here, and as a result, he's going to get pushed back. This will create a massive concave here for Kaz. That could be problematic for DNS. If we see that concave out of Kaz that he could be getting, maybe wants to actually wait out this super battery for a second here. It's not really macroing behind it either. Once again, we see some decent flotation here. Kaz feels like he's missed his timing. I'm not sure if he actually missed his timing or if he just doesn't trust himself with this army right now. There is a lot of medevacs in this, 5. It's a relatively small bioforce. I wouldn't mind if this army makes its way on the map and starts threatening the right side. Then we kind of have these 2 armies on the map. You can ping-pong your attention between the 2. And the Protoss, well, this is not an army that is easily splittable, right? There's not a lot of Zealots in this. There's 10. There's a single Archon. And Stalkers and Colossi just don't split that well. Disruptors don't split that well either. Often what ends up happening is that... Ooh, hold that thought. What ends up happening is that Disruptors kind of defend one side and your main army the other, and you use the Disruptors kind of as a zoning tool. But in order to do that, you need very good vision, often with observers. If you don't have the observers in the correct spots, life is going to be hard. Let's not forget that upgrades are still in favor of Kaz as well, although he hasn't started his +3 armor yet. He has a sizable army here on the right side. This is a good 40 supply over here. At the same time, moving in. Can get a couple of big EMPs off if he wants to. Does not seem to want it, and hence Shockwave still hasn't been researched, by the way. That kind of is a big deal, because in an army this size, you throw 4 or 5 EMPs on it, it should be completely without energy, or without shields. However, you can also just do that with 2 EMPs if you have that enhanced Shockwave, giving a massive percentage radius increase. Surface area increase. Just allowing yourself to hit way more units at the same time. It's really one of the a upgrades in the game. A couple of Disruptor shots here coming out. Kaz with decent splits actually is going to lose majority of the army in the end anyway. At the same time, his army in the main is still dishing out some fair damage. Vikings get taken out. There's a lot of money in the bank that should be spent. We have these extra command centers on the way as well. So Kaz wanting to go up to 4, maybe 5 bases, snipes a fort. And although it wasn't researching, still might have some type of effect there with that fort snipe. Because it delays the next upgrade from starting. And there is some money right now for DNS. Finally, DNS is kind of getting that money that he wanted earlier. I wouldn't mind if DNS also would just send out some Zealots on the map again right now. Often it is very difficult when you're under heavy pressure to get something going, but the best way to relieve pressure is to put on some pressure on your opponent. It often feels impossible, but you'll notice the moment you get some Zealots on the other side of the map, the rally will stay over here for a longer time. Perhaps a part of the... Oh, hold that thought, as once again we have a pretty major fight here. DNS actually feeling comfortable moving on the map like this, but I'm not so sure if I would feel so comfortable with these upgrades that he has knowing that Kaz is about to get +3 as well. 2-2 has finished up, so currently it is even in the upgrades. There's only a single ghost as well, and I think that might actually be the biggest issue right now for our Terran player. 5th base is being built on location. We have 2 extra orbitals done. Ooh, barracks 9, 10, and 11. So some heavy reinforcement power is what Kaz is going to be heading for. How many disruptors are we at? We're at 9 disruptors. We're really starting to hit the count where you need to consider perhaps transitioning into liberators at some point as the Terran, or at least make a complete split of your army. In straight up fights, I think the moment you hit 8, 9 disruptors, it becomes almost impossible for the Terran to properly trade against that, because there's always going to be 1 or 2 disruptor balls moving towards your army. And if the Protoss micros this appropriately, it's going to be close to impossible to have an efficient fight. So here we often see splits of the army while transitioning into liberators. Kaz decides to just form a massive concave, wants to jump on top of this at once, gets the first snipe. Can we get a couple more snipes? No. Both of these disruptor shots are going to end up hitting. There's not a single Viking in this army. No ghosts that provide EMP either. And on top of that, a lot of disruptor shots are hitting. And this is the type of fight I was describing earlier. This is the type of fight as a Terran that you do not want, because you're not actually taking out that many disruptors. 2 disruptors go down, but you lose your marauder force. You lose majority of your ghosts often as well. Now, of course, you can't lose ghosts if you don't have any. That's kind of what we saw here. 1 ghost is still alive, and 1 ghost was there before the fight as well. So that means that 100% of the ghosts stayed alive. It's a lot easier if you hardly have any, though. Bit of a lift up here, and I wouldn't mind. Like, this game is a lot about going behind your opponent's army when they're on the map. When the Terran is on the map, the Protoss wants to be doing run-bys. When the Protoss is on the map, the Terran wants to kind of get back that map control by splitting up part of his army towards the left side, have like a drop towards this bottom. Of course, the moment there's vision in these observers, that becomes a lot harder. So this is a good scan. I really do believe Cast needs to do something to kind of relieve this pressure. Get DNS off his back. Oh, decent-ish split once again. These marauders. Ooh, I believe he could have jumped at 1 disruptor there. Not the greatest control so far out of Cast. Like, he's keeping parts of his army alive against disruptor shots, but disruptor shots do not cost money. They do not lose resources. They're not a unit, they're just a bullet. And if you're constantly still getting hit by at least something, it means you're losing in these trades if you then don't get anything in return. So Cast losing 2-3 marauders every disruptor shot, yes, long term that is going to hurt if you do not get a big engagement out of it. Like, if you force your opponent to shoot 14 disruptor shots and then you jump his army, you usually get a fine trade. But if you're just continuously stimming back and forth, losing marauders, ghosts, marines, and what have you, yeah, it's not going to be good trades. And that's kind of what we're seeing here. Kaz slowly but surely bleeding out army, DNS just keeping that middle position while expanding and getting the gold. Getting the gold is a big thing here for Protoss. On 70 workers, having this type of income is not very common. This is not a great start for a fight for DNS. These disruptors do need to start hitting. They do start hitting, and as a result, we see Kaz actually struggling to hold this position. I think DNS might almost be capable of breaking it completely. Does need to wait for a lot of these disruptors to kind of come back online. And once again, good fight here for DNS, who's currently up 5k in the resources lost and is starting to outmine his opponent in a big, big way. The reinforcements are fast, there are plenty, as Kaz has enough income at least to provide for that. He seems to have enough production as well, of course, with these 11, I think it is, barracks. Yep, 11 barracks, double starport at this point as well. He really needs to get something out on the map, though. You can't just sit here and take these fights time after time after time. Single liberator harass is fun. It's interesting and it might deal some minor damage, but this is not really what you need. Unless you get like 50 worker kills with your single liberator. No, like, you need map control back. You need something that requires a response out of DNS, and Kaz is not setting that up right now. He's just sitting back with his liberators, and that's an issue. As long as you sit back with your liberators and you're not threatening anything, they will never be capable of doing very much. Disruptor shot. Ooh, this is not a great start of the fight for DNS. Yeah, and he does need to be careful. Kaz takes this base. Now this, I really feel like this would be an opportunity to send like a part of your army over here and just get something going on the map. It's so difficult to split this Toss army. There's so many high value targets that without support do not actually fight very well. This is a good move out of Kaz. He kind of zones his army towards the left side. EMPs are going to hit on this large chunk of the army. This is a good trade. And right now, he sets himself up for a potential base trade, but at least for himself to hold this position a little bit longer. Now, more units are going to stream in. This base stays alive as well, which is big. Kind of functions as an anchor. Here comes DNS with a flank. That flank is actually going to be very impactful, will allow him to break this position. More Liberators, however, are moving in. The anti-air force is not large enough, only 6 Stalkers. Kaz getting his first decent fight in a long time. Disruptor shots are being dodged left, right and center. And this time around, I think the disruptors are practically empty. There's only 5 disruptors remaining as well. More gateway units need to be warped in. And the moment new ghosts become available, I feel like this wasn't necessarily a super efficient fight, but it does give Kaz some breathing room if he manages to hold this position for just a little bit longer. Right now, Tempest on the way already. We are really going to be needing Ghost, by the way. Ghosts are super vital. There's only, how many do we have? Yeah, 5 disruptors in this army. I guess if you get a shot like that, it doesn't matter if you only have 1 or 2. That's not the greatest control there out of Kaz. More lips showing up as well. 7 already. That might be able to completely seal off this position right now. Stim, more Liberators sieging up. Big EMP hitting all of the Stalkers. And as there is +3 ship weapons, that means Stalkers are getting one-shot right now by these lips. Look at that. Bam, bam, bam. With an EMP. And if you have +2 ship weapons, at least you are capable of one-shotting. The sad thing is that I feel like Kaz does pretty well. Then he just eats a big disruptor shot at the end of every fight. And the game once again kind of tilts in DNS's favor. So even with like 2 absolutely massive disruptor shots, we see that those last fights were at least efficient for Kaz. So without the disruptor shots, they would have been, well, really efficient and actually probably advantageous by like 2.5, maybe even 3k. Like, there were some big disruptor shots in there, killing a lot of Marauders, taking out a lot of that bio. Kaz does manage to secure himself some rotational space right now. He's the one, well, not really in charge, but he feels like he can move on the map again. And sometimes that is more important than actually being in charge. It's just having the feeling that you're in charge. And then if you take control of the game, if you're gonna take charge, you can do things again. And you see DNS immediately has to give up this middle position. That opens up opportunities with a secondary army, of course. And I wish that Kaz would be using those opportunities to actually start moving on the map. But constantly being the defender never made a Terran player win, because you're just not going to be trading well when your opponent gets all the bases on the map. We see Kaz is setting up for a flank. I don't think that can work. It might be possible though. I could be wrong here, of course. His left side base is going to get taken out. Once again, similar move here. Might want to seal off this area with 2-3 Liberators while moving into a different position. Oh, big scans, big scans. Kaz now going for the kill perhaps, wanting to deal some damage. Liberator setting up. Slightly too backwards position. It's too defensive here. We need to have an objective with our Liberator pushes. Especially now that there's Tempest out, because you're just going to be bleeding out Liberators. You need to have either quick fights or multitasking. This army has become less mobile over time still, as now it consists of 9 Disruptors, 5 Tempest and 4 Colossi. None of these units do well split off. A split army here would be the perfect solution, in my mind. Once again, Disruptors coming in forward to start zoning. What would be really sick if DNS built like a line of cannons and batteries in this position. With the help of those Tempests as well, that could be really powerful to kind of cement yourself in that middle. Makes it difficult for Kaz to ever move around. Because the moment you have that middle secured, you always can attack these types of bases. And in a base trade scenario, you'll always be the first one to kill a base. Ooh, this is kind of scary. DNS needs to be careful here. Good siege up out of Kaz, honestly. Gets a position immediately. Starts unsieging. And moves towards this area right now. Okay. That is interesting. I like this movement a lot. I really do like this movement. Kind of keeping his opponent in the dark as well as to what's happening. You have a Zealot run by heading towards the 3rd base. Good call. It's the only base without a planetary, obviously. See a bunch of these Zealots are going to get caught. Now, this isn't necessarily too bad here for DNS, as he wants to replace these units most likely anyway. Carrier started. Get cancelled again. DTs instead. Ooh. Kind of a spicy call if you're playing this Disruptor Tempest. You already have kind of a small army, and DTs make your army even smaller. This DT is going to be taken out as well. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with these bad boys. Oh, here they come, here they come, here they come. Kaz not seeing it. Not quite. Not quite seeing it. Oh, now he's going to see it. These DTs start hitting him. Start slicing away. Cas is going to go for the pickup. There's just too many DTs to truly fight. Just a pure bio force. Having an EMP there would have been absolutely huge. Or if he would have noticed faster, also would have been really nice, obviously. There is blink on these DTs. At the same time, DNS moving forward. This looks kind of scary. And at the same time exciting. Viking count not large enough to straight up engage into this army. Okay, here come the disruptor shots. That could be really scary, actually. At the same time, DT is moving towards the top side. DNS doesn't really want to fight. He just wants to run and shoot balls at his opponent. At the same time, blink in to kill bases. These DTs are going to get this planetary no response whatsoever out of Cas. And definitely not in time. See a big chase coming in right now. Cas with a lot of money in the bank is going to hit a lot of EMPs. Disruptors will connect with parts of the bio. Lots of Marauders going down here. As another disruptor shot goes off. Can we get a couple of EMPs? Yes, we can. Disruptors largely going to get taken out right now. But there's still 2-3 with these active purification novas. Super battery helps out as well. DNS with a massive bank. GG, well played, says Cas. DNS wins the game here on Pride of Altari. It is, of course, a slightly Protoss favored map, but after that early to mid game that Cas had, I really believed he could have won it. Sadly, not quite the case here. And that is going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye-bye.